Hello and welcome everybody to the Twins Off Daily podcast brought to you by twinsdaily.com. How the heck are you, Twins territory? It is not an off day. We are doing a Twins on Daily podcast right now, just trying to split up this long stretch of games. I think the Twins are currently in the middle of a 12 games in 12 days series here. So Greg and I decided that we would pop in and just check in with y'all and maybe try to. Well, I don't know. What do you think, Greg? Should we try to pull the plug on this thing after 13 games?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should try to pull the plug on this podcast. I listened to your Greg Free show last week, and I have some thoughts. I was not appreciative of this new Gregory gripe segment, so I've got some gripes about Sweet Lou and Comrade Cody. First of all, Sweet Lou. He's always moving on from segments before I'm done. I know the listeners want to hear my 40-minute monologues, and Sweet Lou is always cutting them off. And Cody, he doesn't show up for podcasts quite enough, and I want to gripe about that too. So those are my Lou gripes and Cody gripes.
You know what? I think that's fine. And before you finish that, let's actually move on to our next segment. No, I'm joking.
Oh, classic Lou.
Classic Sweet Lou. Like Greg said, Comrade Cody, I'm not sure what the deal is, but he is on the lam. I think he's, I don't know.
Oh man, yeah. We can't give you now. You have access to the board. This is going to go off the rails real quick.
Real quick. So everybody, like Greg is saying here, since we had the Greg Free episode last time, I was put in control of the board and I've become drunk with power, frankly. So you're going to hear a lot more sound effects. We'll see about that actually, but I don't know. Greg, do we want to talk about this Twins team? It's been a rough go of it lately. I don't know. I get people coming to me all the time and asking for signs of hope. Are they hopeless? What do you think?
I mean, their pitching has been pretty solid over the last few games. I mean, they gave up 9 runs across 4 games against the Royals. There's no excuse to not win at least 2 games when you've only given up 9 runs across the series. I would say if there is, a line for hope, it is that they've been fairly solid with run prevention over the last handful of games. The pitchers who you expect, Lopez, Ryan, and Ober, who you expect to succeed, they were. Unfortunately, that leads us into Pablo Lopez potentially being out, but glimmer of hope. It sounds like Zebby Matthews and or David Festa are going to be getting starts in the short future here. If you're reading through the tea leaves on that, it might be both of them. So that's a positive. I mean, you get to put them in, and if they're up in the majors and they impress, that might be just kind of the last time that they get called up. They might establish themselves in the rotation. They might, once Pablo Lopez comes back, maybe they bump some lower order guys out of the rotation. Maybe our friend Chris Paddock. Which brings us to our favorite game. Is Chris Paddock still a Twin? And as of April 10th, as we record, Chris Paddock is still a Twin.
Confirmed, still a Twin.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that's kind of the one area to get excited right now. The bullpen has also looked fine. They've got one of the lowest ERAs in the league. I don't think that every fan is aware of that. I feel like
just don't ask them to throw to first base.
Oh my gosh, what is going on, man? What do you mean we can't throw? I'm trying not to get too excited, but it is they are losing in the stupidest ways possible. I feel like they would have at least 2 more wins if pitchers could throw to first or second.
It feels like that. Yep.
I feel this has been 12 games And I think that there have been 5 or 6 throwing errors by pitchers. That doesn't even include the adventures of Jose Miranda over at third base. Like, this is just pitchers sabotaging themselves, which is part of the reason their ERA is low, is because like some of their runs don't count because they threw those runs by themselves into center field. But what is going on, man? Oh my gosh.
First of all, shouldn't those runs be earned if it's the pitcher that's committing the error? I mean, it's their fault, right?
That is a very, like, I feel like that is a stupid baseball rule that should have been, like, technically, yes, by the letter of the law and the spirit of ERA, it should not be counted. But I feel like that's something that in like 1920, like Albert Spalding or whatever should have added that to the rule book. That sounds like a silly, like, grandfathered in baseball rule. I don't understand why that's not the rule.
Oh man, well, we've talked a lot about the pitching here. You brought up Chris Paddock. I've seen a lot of people calling for him, like, oh, get him out of the rotation. I can't watch this guy. I don't know if I'm quite to that level yet. His first start, obviously catastrophic against a historically bad Chicago White Sox team that had just traded their best player in the offseason. That was really tough to watch. But his next start, there was a lot to like against the Astros until the very end there when he, let up 5 consecutive runners. What's that, Greg?
Can I ask what inning you mean by the end?
Ooh, the end. Yeah, that dreadful 5th inning of his start, which, yeah, obviously it turns what was looking to be a promising outing, and it just completely unraveled in the matter of 5 at bats, like I said there. And I was in the press scrum there after the game for that one, and I just found it so interesting that he was adamant about, like, oh, I should have had the ball. I really wanted that. That's just kind of a mindset for a lot of professional athletes, and especially pitchers. They're kind of a different breed, it feels like. But it just felt so tone deaf to hear that after, just where this team is at right now, especially in that series that seems so pivotal. I don't know. I hate hearing those things. And just like with Bailey Ober,
Chris Paddock throws down the gauntlet.
Yeah. And
Did he tell Rocco to get lost?
Basically, you know what? The writing was on the wall. Yeah, we could only hope. No, but Chris Paddock, like I said, it was tough to hear that after. Just be like, okay, dude, that's a little tone deaf after the performance, and you were getting pretty clearly shelled, and they're trying to get out of there with the lead intact. But I don't know, man. What do you think for Chris Paddock? Do you think that there's much life left in the rotation for him?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's, especially his last couple starts, a lot of it was he's just struggling to locate. And when that happens, sometimes that's because he's just cooked. Sometimes that's just like a daily thing. Maybe he's just bad. It's really difficult to tell that. So, like, I mean, his pitches, like the pitches themselves, looked all right. Like there was reason to be encouraged by his pitches. However, he couldn't locate. He couldn't keep it over the plate. If it was over the plate, it was like right down the middle. I don't know what to make of Chris Paddock. And there's always that voice in my head. I've referenced it before. That's like, oh, but like, what if he becomes a number 3 starter? And I think that that's a voice in a lot of people's heads. But also, I don't see really a role for him in the bullpen unless you like convert him to be like a long reliever, which no, that's not going to work.
I feel like if they knew how to do that with somebody, they would have done that already with a plethora of different options that they've already had to do that. So I don't know. It's a tough call. I think the most realistic is probably somewhere in the middle of, kind of like what we got last year, which is not super promising, but also not exactly healthy. I don't know. I don't know what we're waiting for necessarily, but I'm excited to see Zebby and David Festa coming up. Like you said, it's looking likely that Festa will make the start on Friday, probably the day when a lot of people are listening to this. So I'm excited to see him get his chance and then be immediately sent back down to AAA so that Zebby can start Monday.
this is something that, based on how they handled Chris Paddock last year and already how they've handled him this year, where they like he blew up that first start against the White Sox and they just let him kind of keep pitching. They
Yeah.
sent him out for the third inning or whatever, when it was clear that the game was
Yes.
out of hand and he did not have it. And they were like, go get us a couple more outs or
Yeah.
something. Which is kind of how they handled him last year. Like if he had a blow up, they just made him eat it. And it kind of reminds me of the things that I do sometimes when I play out of the park baseball, where if I have like somebody who I can't send down, but I don't want to cut him, I will just let him keep throwing like 140 pitches until he gets injured. And then I put him on the injured list and I bring him. That's almost what it feels like with the way that they are treating Chris Paddock, a dude who has like real arm issues. And they're just like, like he's the workhorse.
If he dies, he dies.
I think he leads the team in pitches thrown this year, or pretty close. Like,
Wouldn't doubt it.
I don't know, man. What a conundrum they have on their hands.
So speaking of conundrums, we've pretty much only talked about the pitching, but really the crux of these, probably 7 of the 9 losses that the team have come from the offensive side of the ball, failing to execute. I don't know, man. It's been a mixed bag. There's a few bright spots of guys that are coming through, but I don't know. They've got this kind of glossy look on their eyes a lot of the time. I don't know. I'm no body language expert, but everybody looks uncomfortable. Am I wrong in saying that?
I do think that there is something to that. I'm a little cautious to say stuff like that just because it is really easy to just watch a team struggle and say,
yeah,
I don't, or they don't have it in them, or they look lost up there. Like, which sometimes they struggle because they look lost. Like if you've got somebody like Jose Miranda, who we've all seen his plate appearances. Like there is no telling kind of what he's going to swing out, what he won't, the types of swing that he's putting on balls. You watch something like that, and there is kind of like a straight line you can kind of draw where it's like, okay, he looks lost and he's playing like he's lost. But,
right.
We do have kind of a tendency to just every time that they struggle, attribute it to something kind of mental. So I'm a little hesitant on that. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like it really does not look from an outsider's perspective like they do. I don't know. I hate even to say it because it starts narratives, but they've got their heads. It doesn't seem like they have their heads in the game. Whatever that actually means, that's what it looks like, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's so easy for us as spectators to be like, why would you let those 2 pitches right down the middle go and then go chasing after something in the dirt? Like it sounds so simple, and it's just simply not. And there's so much more to an at bat than that. And it's totally valid for fans to see this and be like, oh gosh, we just keep waiting for this cycle to end. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think that's well put. I think that's a good clarifier that you had there, that, oftentimes it can look like somebody's lost and we wouldn't know left from right. But I don't know. Is there anybody that is giving you a little bit of hope lately that they could either turn things around or are, I hate to say, have been unlucky?
Well, I first want to give a shout out to my guy, Ty France. I am, like I said, especially after people's outsized reactions to the signing of Ty France and him choosing the number 13. He became my favorite player. I even tolerate the whole France thing, which is the first time I've ever tolerated France. But shout out Ty France. But I don't know. Like, it's hard to even say that they're getting, like, they have an OPS of like 500 something.
Yeah.
It's really hard to luck your way into performance that bad. I mean, even with like Carlos Correa, yeah, he is stinging the ball, or at least early in the season, he was stinging the ball. It's not like his overall numbers are, super high. Like his exit velocity, for example, is not super, super high right now, if I remember correctly. Okay. Thanks for the fact check. But like even the stuff that he is stinging is straight into the ground. And so like, there is probably some luck aspect to that. Hard hit ground balls that are hit, 20 feet to the left of second base or the second baseman. Yeah, they do go through. But gosh, dang it, man. I don't know. Like I'm not seeing a ton of signs, I guess. I'm impressed by what Matt Wallner is doing. I think Willie Castro is having a solid start to the season. I think Edouard Julien has looked fairly good over the last couple of games, at least at the plate. At least, like, he's not been completely lost, which is a lot better than what it seemed like for other players. I don't know, though, that I'm seeing much to get excited about.
So a lot of the struggles with the offense, I think maybe Aaron Gleeman tweeted this out. They experienced last year around this time too. After 13 games, they had, hitting under 200. And I don't want to be like, and look what happened there. Everything was all great, because obviously the big, catastrophe and starting in mid-August and through the end of the season still obviously counts. But overall in the middle of the season there, things were looking good and the offense is kind of back on track. And I don't know, maybe it's just because we haven't seen it yet, but it's hard to feel like they're going to return to form. I don't know, am I wrong in thinking that?
I mean, I think that there's enough talent that this
Sure.
is going to turn itself around. However, at the same time, there's like an existential dread. And I think that, like, to bring us back to our first official show ever, episode 1, Crisis in Charm City, I believe was the
sick name.
Yeah, I know. I think that was Nick Nelson who did that. I don't even know what Charm City is. I don't know.
What is that?
Where's
Baltimore?
Charm City?
I don't know.
I think that is. Yeah, I think that was Baltimore. From an existential perspective, if this team is not a team that can compete, I don't know what like the last 7 years was about. Like, if this is a team that, was completely constructed by this front office, if this was so many of these guys are guys that they drafted and have brought up through the system or have acquired in trade or have signed to massive free agent deals or extensions. I mean, Emmanuel Rodriguez and Luke Keeschel and Brooks Lee are kind of waiting, and Ruiz Lewis, they could all be reinforcements. I just kind of undercut the point I was trying to make, but like, I don't know if this is a really bad team. I don't know where the franchise goes from here.
Sure. Yeah. I think that's fair to say. It's interesting too, just, we talk about how impressed we are with the depth that they've built on the pitching side, and it doesn't feel that way with the offense just yet, but maybe that's just because this new class of the guys that you just mentioned haven't come up and had an impact yet. And we've seen other classes of top prospects come up and not be able to turn the tide. You know what I mean? Like, at one point we were super jazzed for Jose Miranda to come up, Edouard Julien, Trevor Larnach, even, going back to 2021.
Alex
Kirilloff. Yeah. Good old realtor, Alex Kirilloff. Where's he, in Florida?
Shout out Hayes. Yeah. On topic, I think we may have talked about this on the podcast before, and I apologize if we have. Do you know what Boof Bonser is doing nowadays?
We have talked about this. Do you want to spill the beans?
He is laying pipe in Connecticut. Shout out Boof Bonser, the greatest layer of pipe that Connecticut has ever seen.
Oh, anyway. Yeah. So, like I said, it's interesting that we don't have that comfort level with the depth on the offense side. But who knows? It's still just so early at this point. Last year, when they were having these same struggles, Willie Castro was looking terrible. Carlos Santana was also dreadful and getting everyday playing time. And then, the third week of April, they suddenly turned it on and off we go.
What they're doing. They do have some April games against the Chicago White Sox again this year. I don't need to remind you what happened last time they had a string of games in April against the White Sox.
What happened, Greg?
Well, they went off on a nice little run there. Actually, holy crap! They not only have games against the Chicago White Sox in April, immediately following that are games against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Well, they're good this year, though.
I know, but that was or are they good? I don't know. I actually don't know how they've been doing.
I think they hit like 12 home runs.
Oh, today. They're 8-4. Heck yeah, Angels. However, what I'm saying is It's like poetry. It rhymes. That's the string against the White Sox and Angels turned the tide and the season around, at least for a few months, for the Twins last year. Why not? If they can just maybe not go, I don't know, 7-13 before they get there, that'd be nice, though.
That'd be nice. That would be really nice. So there have been a couple of games this year that felt like, oh, the Twins had it in their hands and they slipped through. But I think that I've counted 2, and I think they were both in the last week. And if they flip those 2 games, we're talking about a 6-7 team, and the outlook is a lot different. You know what I mean? But it's just such a young season still, and it hasn't been a fun product.
Yeah, well, if my uncle,
let's see.
Sorry, no, you were saying,
he's in a little bit of a timeout, but I don't know, Greg. I think we should even just turn this over. Do you have any gripes that you can help us out with before we take off here?
Oh dear, are we doing a Greg's gripes?
Should we? I don't know. This is impromptu.
Well, I don't know if we're done. I don't know if we're done talking about baseball, or
that's what I guess. That's what I'm asking. Do we still want to talk about some X's and O's here? Are you ready for a gripe sesh?
I like I said, I think my biggest thing is just like the existential nature of all of this. I really like, and it's so early, but gosh dang it, man, I don't know what this team is, if it's going to be bad. And I don't know how this organization like kind of goes forth from here, because you're looking at a roster that has 3 players who are making a ton of money, or like a high percentage of the overall money on this team is going to 3 players who are not the most durable.
Sure.
And then you've got basically the rest of this organization, or like the rest of this team is it's 50% arbitration guys. So like guys who are at the point in their career where they should be real, everyday, kind of consistent role players. And then you've got, I don't know, like there's enough like interesting pieces in the high minors that you can feel okay about them. But like, I don't know, like this is such a weird spot to be in, especially going through this for the second time in 2 years, where they just get off. Like literally, like what are they tied for the second worst start in team history with last year? Or no, like what? I don't know.
No. Here we go. I got this. At
2016 and 1991. Yes. You gotta get up pretty early to beat Greg to a Twitter statistic.
I guess. Part of this too, we've seen for the most part, since Derek Falvey has led this organization, you don't see too many consecutive years of not successful teams. You know what I mean? It's been kind of
right.
1 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off, something like that. But we saw that a little bit at, earlier in, 10 years ago, say between 2011 and 2016, consecutive, just really bad teams, not good farm systems that didn't come up and help. And maybe it's just because the nature of us being constantly online now has just amplified everything, but it feels like fans are more disgusted with this team now than they were in those dreadful years of 2011, heavy rebuild years of 2011 to 2016. I don't know, kind of funny to me.
No, I think so much of it, and I hate to talk about this because I don't know crap. As Nacho Libre once said, I don't know a buttload of crap about like what's going on with ownership or have any like real opinions on it. However, like we can't deny that like the organization is not really making it easy for fans to have a rational reaction to what's going on here. Yeah. Like there are so many ridiculous narratives going on, like away from the field of play. It's like Sideshow Bob stepping on a rake every time. And of course, people are going to end up getting riled up because you've got all of this negative kind of affect just hovering in the air. It's like a gas leak where there's, you maybe, I don't know, my nose doesn't work great. I might not smell natural gas, but if you have a bunch of natural gas in a room and you start a lighter, like everything is good. And the team has went and started a lighter, and they didn't just start it like now. They started it. I mean, it was 8 months ago at this point, right? So like obviously like the end of August and into September, that's only 6 weeks, and this season is only a couple weeks old. However, we also got to sit and marinate in how disgusting that was for 6 months. We have gone 8 months without good Twins baseball, and a team that's getting like the payroll is like $150 million this year. Like this is not like a team that intended to go in the tube. This is a team that they were building to compete. And it's been 8 months since we've seen meaningful Twins baseball or exciting Twins baseball. Of course, people are going to be upset. Of course, it's not going to be fun for them to go to the ballpark.
Yeah, I'm looking at the front page of Fangraphs right now, and the banner story says, after fumbling away a playoff berth last year, the Twins continue to bumble. Minnesota has struggled on both sides of the ball and hasn't won more than 2 games in a row since the middle of last August. That's from Jay Jaffe at fangraphs.com.
Gosh damn it!
That does not give you like a lot of opportunity to catch your breath after plugging your nose for so long. You know what I mean? So it's the fan disgust is pretty understandable, and I'm ready for that to be over. We can open a window here and let some fresh air in it quickly, but let's just hope we don't pass out before it's too late.
Or, I mean, maybe this just goes like straight down the tube and everybody can just kind of excise their Twins angst. Like, I think that there is like potentially like as a silver lining, if the Twins completely go in the tank now, like every fan can just excise all of that aggression, all of that frustration. Like it's not going to be like paired with the will they, won't they compete. It's like, oh no, if they just go in the tank in like May and people can just check out for the season, it might be better for people's mental health if they don't have to deal with all of this frustration. I will say I've seen many, many calls for, well, something to happen to somebody who leads the team. I don't like to talk about a man's job.
Okay, so Johnny Tight Lips.
We're gonna fire TC Bear out of a cannon.
Oh, but good.
So like let's say let's just call the person TC Beardelli. Many people want to fire TC Beardelli out of a cannon, and I don't know what that would change. I think that would essentially, like, the organization's still going to be the organization. They're still going to have the same kind of philosophies, whether TC Beardelli is shot out of a cannon or not. But I there's like the real sicko in me would kind of enjoy maybe seeing that happen, if for no other reason than for like people to explain why things continue to be bad after TC Beardelli has been shot out of a cannon. Or if things get better, I would love for them to explain exactly why things have gotten better since TC Beardelli has gotten shot out of a cannon. And I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to be something silly like whoever, I don't know, maybe it's I don't know, whoever would take over in this case. He just shows more aggression in interviews, or he has more of a personality in interviews. Yeah. So I'm sure that the guys are playing harder for him or something. Like, I think that whoever's going to manage this team is going to have a quick hook, whether it's TC Beardelli or not,
or TC Engler. I don't know. That's a harder one. That's a harder one.
I was shooting the crap. I was shooting the crap with some people earlier today. We were lamenting, like, if TC Beardelli got shot out of a cannon, it would be really sad that like people would not have a name like Rockhead to throw around anymore.
Yeah.
And I threw out the idea of the phrase being Jace Tinkler pissed it down his leg again.
Oh no.
I think that could catch on. I think that could catch on. And Jace Tinkler does have a history of pissing it down his leg. I don't know if Twins fans exactly know why he was available to be a bench coach, but he might have experience in that regard.
He just might. Oh, brother, I don't know. Do you got any gripes you want to throw our way, or should we save them for our next episode?
Let me hit the music real quick.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, it is time for Gregory's Gripes, everybody's favorite segment. Greg's always got something grinding his gears. This is his chance to get it off his chest. What's up, Greg?
Okay, so I'm a little bit of a stickler for the English language.
Mm.
Up until about 8 years ago, there was another term for people like me, but those people, the original version of those people, have come back in popular
Oh,
culture. So we don't throw that one around
no,
anymore.
no.
Um, but like, for example, I get irrationally upset when people call things that like I hate when people use the word toxic incorrectly, or like to describe anything that's not the bottles underneath the sink. Like I don't like people like if somebody says like that person is toxic or I have a toxic manager, that annoys the heck out of me. If you use the term gaslighting to just mean lying,
Yep.
oh man, that sends me up the wall. That pisses me off because gaslighting is a whole different thing. And yeah, so one that's been bothering me a little bit for a couple of years now, but for some reason I just ran into somebody the other day who uses this word all the time, and it's the word whenever. Okay, so when you use the word whenever, that can either mean whenever, like I can't remember when it happened. So like whenever it happened, um, I can't say like specifically when that was, but whenever it happened, this is what happened. But you can also say it to mean that it's happened multiple times, or like whenever this happens, I respond like this, right?
Sure.
I despise when people use the term whatever to just mean when. Like it's a thing that happened and you refer to it as whenever it happened. So like uh I just took a flight. I just flew about 1,000 miles. And if I was telling you about my experience on the plane, and I'm saying like last weekend, whenever I was on the plane, that makes it sound like I was on the plane several times and something happened. And so in my stupid brain, every time that somebody uses the term whenever to mean when, it actually takes me out of the sentence. And I have to like retrace my way back to the beginning of the sentence and re-listen to it like in my head with the word when. Stop using whenever when you mean when. I'm sorry if this offends our loyal listeners, but I think that you're a rube if you use whenever to mean when. And I don't apologize for that. You need to stop that. You need to clean it up.
Greg, whenever you started this gripe, I knew it was going to gaslight into something toxic. So,
Oh man, I
Greg,
wish that
you
there
there?
was a way that I could censor. I wish I could censor this because I want to. I want to tell you to go yourself. Like this is crazy. I can't stand you.
Good, good. Well, I'm glad we're there. Glad we're at this point on episode, what is this, 38 or something like
You
that.
deserve it after devoting like 10 minutes to just complaining about Ol Gregg last episode. I'll tell you what. My parent texted me,
Uh-oh.
said I heard about this Gregory Gripes, and I
And
listened, and I said
they've got some
this
to throw
parent
our way.
this parent never like never listens to the show. They're not a baseball fan. So but they said, "Yep, that pretty much sounds like you. That they've got you pinned."
Nice.
I'm like, okay, thanks. All right, cool. Sure.
Uh,
Shout out you.
okay, I'm gonna need some contact info for this parent because we're gonna need some background information on our dear friend Gregory for future episodes. I think for further implications. Anyway,
Well,
Greg, what do we think?
they're the oldest person in the world if they're my parent and they're still alive. So
I would love to meet them. That would be an absolute trip. Future guest of the pod, parent of Gregory. We'll make that happen. We'll get producer Lenny on the job, and he will lure them in. Okay, Greg, what do we think? The Twins have about a week's worth of games until their next off day. I don't know. What are you expecting? They have a 3-game series against the Detroit Tigers and 3 games against the New York Mets. Uh, do you think by the next time we talk, things will have a brighter outlook?
we're still in the point of the season where we can just like inhale all of the copium to sound like a
Mhm.
Guardians fan. We can inhale all of the copium, and we can say, if the Twins sweep their next 2 series, by the next time we talk, they will have a winning record.
Meat's back on the menu, boys.
I mean, I don't know. Honestly,
non-zero chance that happens.
I just want them to go 500, and I think that they can. I'm really curious. It sounds like Festa is starting tomorrow. Is that what we've
That
heard?
looks like the plan. Yep. I'm not sure if it's an official announcement, but that would keep him on his schedule, which would make the most sense for a move like this.
Okay, and then Matthews would throw Monday.
Correct.
Then on his to keep on his schedule.
Yep, I believe the plan would be Festa Friday, Paddock Saturday, Simeon Woods Richardson on Sunday, and then Zebby on Monday.
Oh man, and there's no Darren McCacken in this bullpen right now.
Not yet. Yeah.
He refused his outright.
Sure. So he's elects free agency, but at this point, might the Twins be like a pretty enticing option to if he's going to sign a minor league deal with anybody? There's probably just as much opportunity for him to get called back up with the Twins than most the rest of the league, right?
Right. I just think that they're going to also lose Scott Blewett this weekend because
they just might.
There's a real chance if you line up the 4 pitchers that they have right now in a row that at least 1 or 2 of them is going to be like a somewhat short start. Sorry. Did you see? I know we're completely off the rails now. Did you see that John Boy had a breakdown of Simeon Woods Richardson's stepping off the rubber?
I did see that, and I don't think Rocco came off very impressive in that breakdown. What do you think?
I've long said that Rocco only gets ejected because he's arguing rule interpretations. I don't know. I think he was just trying to get kicked out. I don't know. Like even when he's mad, I don't see the piss and vinegar that I would expect. Maybe this is from too much time watching Gardy, but Sim also did not come off super well in that breakdown.
No. Blowing kisses and like knocking and like And I love the personality. I like his charisma. I like that swagger about him, but might need to tone it down until he gets a little stretch here. But yeah, it did not make the Twins look very good at all.
Maybe when there's not a 4 on the scoreboard, you can get away with that.
Right.
But yeah, well, I don't know. There's a real chance that like they get shellacked early again. 2 or 3 of those 4. We're going to lose Scott Blewett in the process. I don't know what the countdown for Randy Dobnak is. I think that he might be eligible to return to the big leagues this weekend.
Welcome back, big dog.
Rick Dobnak, I know you're listening out there. Yeah. Tell Randy welcome back. I don't know if they can go 3-3. I'm going to just be okay. Yeah. I just need them to not lay a complete egg. Because if they go like 1-5 or 2-4, we're sitting here looking at like a 6-11 team or something like that. A 6-14 team. Like they're digging themselves an early hole if they can't at least go 500 over these next 2 series, and they're not playing bad teams.
Yeah, no, they'll have to earn it for sure. But it's. Do it for Joe. Joe Mauer they're unveiling his statue, which I'm sure you're thrilled about, Greg, outside. Or there. Yeah, no statue.
No statues for mortals. Unless you've been canonized, I don't want to see a statue of you.
Okay, you know what? That's probably fair. But listen, I'm going to be there anyway.
I'm an iconoclast. I will make exceptions for the holiest among us.
Okay. All right.
Sweet Lou, do you have any sweet nothings for us? Do you have any glimmers of hope? Can I hit this Sweet Lou's sweet nothing music for us?
I don't even remember what that sounds like. Go for it. You can hit it.
Okay. No, this isn't it. No, wait, hold on. That was from the Daily Dose. Hold on. I've got the Sweet Nothings music. There we go.
All right. Okay, I felt like I was going to break out the song and dance there. Yeah, sweet nothing. So there's been a lot of gripes, a lot of frustrations around here, but I think the sweet nothing I have is the simplicity of a nice brat at the ballpark. I had that at the home opener this year. I went with my family and some friends, and I got one of those cherry bomb brats from Kramarchuk's, and there is just
Check
a
out the
nice little
game.
check out the what?
Check out the Glizzy game.
Yeah, check out the Glizzy game. Exactly. Um, the simplicity of a nice Glizzy at a game there. Nothing like it. And even with the Twins losing that game, it was still just a great time at the ballpark, and that's what it's all about. I even in those lost years that I talk about between 2011 and 2016, I got just like such fond memories of being at the ballpark even during those losing years, and I feel like sometimes people lose sight of that during tough stretches like this. So keep the faith, get yourself a nice Glizzy, check out the Glizzy game. That's all I got for Sweet Nothings this time.
Actually, you know what? I actually want to follow you up on this. This is something that I talk about somewhat often, and I think that it's relevant right now. I don't want to come off as like a Polad shill or anything, or tell people that they need to support the team. You're totally free to support the team. You're totally free to check out of this twin season already. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's okay, is what I mean to say. I don't mean to
Sure.
come off like condescending or anything like that. You can check out of this team. You can be frustrated if the Polad situation or the team or the manager or the front office, if those people have ruined the game for you, and that's fine. Like that's your experience. It has not ruined the game for me, but that is your experience. You do not have to force yourself to watch baseball.
Sure.
However,
Yeah.
I beg you to, if you still enjoy baseball, if you still enjoy a day at the ballpark, don't deprive yourself of that to stick it to anybody. There
Right.
is something magical about having a hot dog at the game. There's something magical about sitting in the cheap seats for like $12 on some sort of reseller and just hanging out. I have so many friends who are not baseball fans, but are always asking me when the next time we're going to a game is,
Right.
because they enjoy being at the ballpark. I love being at the ballpark. I have 3 local teams. None of them are the Twins. 2 of them I don't care about. One of them I actually actively despise. But I still go to those games because nothing it makes me happier outside of like my family than being at the ballpark. Please, I beg you, if there is still like a love for that, if you know that you would enjoy being at the ballpark, if the Twins have not ruined your ballpark experience, don't deprive yourself of that. There is so much beauty in baseball. If not, like, if all of that's ruined and you're living in the Minneapolis St. Paul area, go to Saints games. If you love
Yeah.
baseball, do not let your experiences, your impressions of this team ruin baseball as a whole for you. Still enjoy a day at the ballpark. Unless you don't enjoy it. But don't let them take that from you. Don't give that to them.
There
If
you
that
go.
makes sense. I hope that that's coming through.
That does come through. Go to a Saints game. Go to a town ball game. Go to one of my Latino league games. Come watch me make a fool of myself in the outfield. 100%. Come on down. The game does not have to be defined by how good your current favorite team in Major League Baseball is doing. It doesn't need to be that way. So I don't know, Greg. Maybe we've harped on him too much. Should we take off for the night?
No, I think that that's I think we've said our piece. I do. I think that it was good to end on some sort of positivity there, because it is sometimes difficult to remember just how beautiful baseball itself is
Mm,
when you,
mm.
you go through times like this.
Well
Gosh dang
said.
it. I'm almost getting emotional.
We can't have that.
Hug your
We can't
loved
have you
ones,
getting emotional.
everybody.
Yeah, hug your loved ones. Speaking of loved ones, oh, here comes Cody. Oh, he drove by. He's okay. Well, he went by really fast. But on behalf of our comrade Cody, who is on the run from the law,
Or just not showing up for work. That's what comrades do.
yeah, ooh,
He,
yeah.
he said that he can't come to the podcast because he's doing tarot card readings at the local center. So
Ooh. Oh, yeah. Well, Cody, we hardly knew you. We hardly knew you. But on behalf of Cody and Greg and myself, Sweet Lou Hennessy, thank you so much for joining us. Please leave us a good review, share with your friends. But until next Thursday, thank you very much, and stay sweet, everybody. Cody, you're dead to us.